大家好，今天我们会讨论怎么为你的中文考试来准备。Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Darren. I'm a second-year med student studying at Monash University here in Melbourne, Australia. With VCE, I graduated in 2020 with an ATAR of 99.95 and I scored a 45 in Chinese in year 11. Chinese is a really difficult subject, as are most languages, because it's just a lot of preparation, and if you will have completed your oral by the time you see this video. So congratulations, a big kudos to you for that. It's a really difficult hurdle to overcome. And now we just have this final written exam, which is kind of at the end of exam period as well. Today's video will just be in one part. The Chinese exam has changed a bit since I sat it, so I don't think I'm an expert on timings. So I'll just be talking about how I approach each section, because your sections are the same, similar, without the translation part. So enjoy. Before we head into the video, once again, a little notice of exam that I've written up. Chinese first language, Chinese second language advanced, language, culture and society, second language, so in order of when they are. And I set Chinese second language, in case you're curious, and when I said it, there was also no Chinese language, culture and society. If you're looking for some more advice on languages, I have this video out that I made last year on how to excel at VCE languages. I'm pretty sure I put a lot of effort into this video. I'm surprised it didn't do exceptionally well, but I remember this video being quite good, so be sure to check it out if you have a bit of time. Okay, so the way we'll go about this is I'll look at each aspect of your language, of the Chinese exam, and then share the sort of how I'd prepare for that. So the exam prep. First, we have listening. Then we have reading comprehension. Then we have the two writing tasks, where one you have to sort of compare with, or one you have to incorporate stimulus, so two writing tasks. Kind of like the GAT, honestly. I didn't have that when I was in year 11. Okay, so let's go through these. Listening. With all of these, Chinese honestly is a lot of practice, okay? But for listening, what's really important is you write down as much as you can, even if you don't think it's relevant. Write as much as you can. So in reading time, and in writing time as well, you will see the questions and you will sort of hear buzzwords. So if they're asking, what color does this girl wear? You'll hear a particular color, you'll hear her name, and that will be a buzzword. But I highly recommend you write as much as you can without going overboard, but write a lot in case there is something you missed. So I found that afterwards, if I only wrote exactly what I thought would be an answer, sometimes I wanted to add more detail and I heard it, but I just didn't write it down. So write as much as you can, so that you don't, because you might need that information later. So may need info later. But honestly, if you're not an exceptional Chinese speaker, if you don't really speak Chinese at home, listening is a lot of practice. So just listen to a lot of Chinese, especially in this exam situation, and just practice noting down, jotting things down when you listen to it. And also try and keep it neat. That's really important. I think I put lines between each question, and I also wrote question 1, question 2, and then put my notes next to it. Because if your writing's messy, after you've recorded down, you sometimes might forget what it said, or you can't read your own writing, which is really, really frustrating. So keep it neat and write a lot. Next, we'll move on to reading comprehension. Once again, a lot of practice. But with reading comp, the practice is more so you sort of get a gauge of what's too much to write and what's too little to write. So gauge how much to write. Those are the common mistakes that people make. They sometimes include too much information, which I would say is better than including too little information, but is also not ideal as well. So it's good if you can sort of assess how your teacher is giving you marks and when they're taking away marks for being too verbose or too concise, and that you cultivate that through doing more practice exams. And the other thing with reading comprehension is to sort of record down vocab you didn't know, especially vocab that you think is quite common. So for example, conjunctions, or a particular idiom that you think is quite common. If it's a very niche topic on elephants or something, then some of the phrases around elephants is probably not that important. But you want to make sure you record down the vocab you didn't know. There's also a list of vocab on the study design, I'm pretty sure, on study design. And do get acquainted with those because they put it on there because it's an expectation that you know them going into the exam. And they're very likely to crop up in reading comprehension and in listening as well. Okay, next for the 2 writing tasks. The first writing task is a bit like the GAT. I didn't have much training and practice on it. So my general gist is that you want to incorporate the stimulus and have a written structure. But that's all I can sort of say about it. With the next writing task, I thought that sort of memorization was quite good. So memorizing essays. I didn't do this for English, but Chinese, because I'm not that good at Chinese and when compared to my English. In English, you're responding to a text, whereas Chinese, it's like you got to come up with new ideas. You got to have idioms and all that for a new topic completely, which is irrelevant to a topic you've done before. So I found memorizing essays was quite good because then I could use a lot of that vocab, a lot of that structure when I encountered a similar topic. The other thing is, I guess, exposure. You want to see a lot of topics, and I didn't really prepare for the imaginative ones because they're just too hard and it's unlikely similar ones will come up. But exposure to other different topics, so the sort of benefits and drawbacks, that kind of one, the persuasive one, evaluative, the ones where you share your personal experiences about going to like Shanghai or going to Europe or something. Those ones, oftentimes, it's good to prepare for them, and they also translate a bit to one another because some of the vocab you describe how beautiful the scenery is can be applied to different places. So exposure to different topics and preparation for different topics is important. And yeah, imaginative is pretty hard to prepare for and to do well in. The other thing is I will try to improve my idioms, improve my idiom knowledge. This was somewhat useful for translation as well, but you guys don't have that anymore. But it's also quite useful for the essay. So in my actual essay, I had a topic that I hadn't written before, which is about like introducing my teacher. And in that exam, I used a lot of my oral in it because I talked about my teacher there. And I also used some of the idioms that I just knew from my general knowledge. When I started off with Chinese, I didn't know a lot of idioms because it's not something you talk about with your parents. It's not something you talk a lot in like normal conversation. And so I really built up my idiom knowledge, which meant that I could draw on a couple idioms if I really had to come up with a completely new piece. The way I improved my idiom knowledge, I had a list of idioms, so hopefully your teacher has some, your tutor has some, your Chinese school has some, and I'll put them in Quizlet. So as you can see here, these explain all the idioms, and I had a couple lists, so these are just 2 of the lists I had. I had like a couple more, but these 2 I knew really well, and there was one, I think it was like 1 to 65 as well, that I knew quite well. And so these idioms, you can see, are not too fancy, but you can see when you might use them. 面红耳赤 can be used in like a persuasive or an evaluative piece. And 漠不关心 can be used to describe a person as well. And so these would sort of build up my general Chinese foundation so that even if I was met with a new topic, I could produce a somewhat acceptable essay. And I did end up scoring 18 on my exam essay, which I hadn't prepared before at home, which I'm pretty happy with. So that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. We just had a look at the preparation steps and how I approached each section of the Chinese exam. Good luck for your Chinese exams. It was a very difficult journey the whole year for me. And if you're someone similar to me who's been in Chinese school for a very long portion of their life, it sort of feels like the end of a certain journey as well. And Chinese is also very difficult if you've just picked up the subject because it's a completely new language, but also you have a lot of characters and the pronunciation, and it can be a bit overwhelming. But congratulations, you've reached the final exam. A big good luck to you guys for the final exam. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I know there are a lot of teachers out there, a lot of schools and tutoring for Chinese school, but oftentimes you don't really hear a student's perspective. So if you have any questions about that, drop them in the comments below. But otherwise, I wish you guys good luck for your studying, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.